Hello everyone, I'm Alex, and today I want to share a story that seems straight out of a fantasy novel, but I experienced it firsthand. Imagine for a moment that the mirror in your bathroom, an object so everyday and common, starts talking to you. Yes, you heard that right, talking to you. At first, I took it as a joke, or maybe the result of a lack of sleep. But reality became even stranger when that very mirror began to show me visions of my future, revealing secrets that, honestly, I would have preferred not to know. Join me as I tell you how a simple reflection in the glass turned into invaluable advice, and how the advice from a mirror, as absurd as it may have seemed, changed my life forever. Are you brave enough to discover what secrets my mirror held and how they impacted my destiny? Stay with me, because what you're about to hear defies all logic and reveals how even the most ordinary things can have extraordinary meaning. To understand this story, let me introduce myself, Alex, an ordinary guy who never thought about unusual things. My life used to be a predictable cycle. I'd wake up, get ready for work, spend the day in meetings and emails, and then come home to relax in front of the TV. My personal refuge was my small apartment, a cozy place but nothing extraordinary. Everything was routine until something changed. My bathroom, the most ordinary corner of my home, had a mirror that had been there since I moved in. It was a simple mirror, framed in a wooden frame that had seen better days, but it did its job without me giving it much thought. It had always been a functional mirror, a place where I checked to make sure everything was in place before leaving the house. I had no reason to think it would become anything more than that. One day, while brushing my teeth, I heard a murmur. At first, I thought it was the water, or maybe my imagination playing tricks on me. But when the murmur turned into a clear and direct voice, I was paralyzed. The mirror's voice started giving me advice, one after another, about things I had never considered. It spoke about my work, my personal decisions, and even my relationships. The first time I heard it, I laughed. I thought someone was playing a joke, or that my mind was having a trick on me. But then, the mirror's voice began to hit on details that only I knew, and I found it impossible to ignore. What was happening? Why was an apparently ordinary mirror talking to me? The situation became even more puzzling when, one day, the mirror didn't just give me advice but started showing me visions. Visions of my future. That's when I realized this mirror was not a simple everyday object. I was about to discover that what seemed like a mere household accessory had a much greater impact on my life than I had ever imagined. The first piece of advice the mirror gave me was about a decision I had pending at work. I was considering switching departments, something that seemed risky but potentially beneficial. The mirror's voice said firmly, "Don't stay in your comfort zone. Change will bring you more opportunities than you imagine." I heard it, and instead of taking it seriously, I dismissed it. I thought it was nonsense, a sort of echo of my own insecurities. However, as days passed, problems started to pile up in my work life. The small decisions I had made, based on my comfort, began to show their negative effects. My performance declined, and my satisfaction with my job diminished. As the discomfort grew, the mirror's advice became more persistent, like an alarm I couldn't ignore. Then, the voice began addressing other aspects of my life, my relationship with my partner, my finances, even my health habits. Each piece of advice was more accurate than the last, describing with unsettling precision aspects that I wasn't even willing to admit to myself. Although I felt confused, I decided to continue ignoring these pieces of advice. They seemed too strange to be true, and I didn't want to appear as a madman seeking answers from a mirror. But then, something incredible happened. As I was preparing for an important meeting, the mirror started showing me visions. Instead of an ordinary reflection, I saw a panorama of my future projected on the glass. I saw how, if I continued to ignore the advice, my life would crumble, financial problems would grow, my relationship would break down, and my health would deteriorate. The vision was so vivid it made me tremble. It was a brutal shock, a jolt that defied all logic. I couldn't keep ignoring what the mirror was showing me. The clarity with which I saw my possible future was both striking and terrifying. At that moment, I realized I couldn't keep making decisions lightly. What I had considered a joke or a fantasy had real weight. The mirror was trying to tell me something crucial, and if I didn't heed its warnings, I could face disastrous consequences. That's how my skepticism began to crumble. What had started as a strange whisper had turned into an inescapable revelation. My life was at stake, and the mirror, with its advice and visions, was becoming a crucial element for my survival and success. Could I really trust what it was showing me? And how could I face the future if I wasn't willing to listen to the warnings right in front of me? The vision the mirror showed me was a devastating blow. I had never imagined that my future could be so bleak if I continued to ignore its advice. From that moment on, I faced a painful dilemma: follow the mirror's warnings, which now seemed to carry an ominous weight, or cling to my usual skepticism and try to handle things my way. The first real conflict arose when, after receiving advice about a risky job opportunity, I decided to go the opposite way. My boss had offered a promotion that involved more responsibility but also a radical change in my daily routine. The mirror advised me to accept the promotion, suggesting it would lead me to new professional heights. But I, paralyzed by fear and the comfort of my routine, turned down the offer. I did it thinking my current stability was safer than the uncertainty of change. Problems began to pile up almost immediately. The pressure at work increased, and the growth opportunities that had once been within reach began to fade. My colleagues advanced while I remained stagnant. My self-esteem plummeted, and I began to question my ability to make decisions. Work became a daily burden, and my hours were filled with stress and frustration. On the personal front, things were no better. My relationship with Emma, my partner, became tense. The mirror had suggested I work on our differences, addressing the issues we had been avoiding. But instead of facing the problems, I chose to ignore them, hoping they would resolve themselves. This decision only exacerbated the issues, and arguments became more frequent and painful. Additionally, I began to neglect my health. The mirror's voice had warned about the importance of staying fit and taking care of my well-being. But, with the added stress in my work and personal life, I neglected my healthy habits. My energy dwindled, my diet became disordered, and I started to feel constantly tired. Frustration and despair accumulated, and I began to question whether it was really all my fault or if there was something more at play. Could the mirror really be right, or was I simply falling victim to my own lack of confidence and poor decisions? The anxiety consumed me, and I felt trapped between the desire to change my life and the fear of the unknown. The conflict was clear: the mirror offered a solution that seemed magical and out of the ordinary, while I struggled with my own skepticism and fear of change. I found myself at a crossroads, trying to balance listening to the voice that seemed to have answers with the challenge of taking control of my life without losing my sense of reality. Should I trust the mirror's advice and confront my fears, or continue on my current path and risk having my life fall apart even more? The decision was overwhelming, and the weight of each choice became increasingly evident. The accumulated tension finally reached a breaking point. After weeks of ignoring the mirror's advice and watching my life crumble, I decided to confront what it was really trying to tell me. I needed answers and was willing to look beyond my skepticism. So, one night, I decided to do something I had never done before: sit in front of the mirror and ask it to show me a clearer vision of my future. The atmosphere in the bathroom was silent, except for the soft hum of the fan and the steady beat of my own heart. I looked into the mirror, and for the first time, I felt a mix of vulnerability and hope. "Show me what you see," I whispered, my voice trembling, unsure if I truly wanted to know the answer. Then, something extraordinary happened. The mirror began to glow with a warm, ethereal light. What initially was a faint glow intensified until the mirror became a window into a future I had never imagined. The glass surface began to ripple and transform, revealing a series of visions that were both fascinating and terrifying. First, I saw a scene that froze my blood. It was me, sitting in a disorganized office, surrounded by stacked papers, with a look of desperation on my face. My environment was in ruins, reflecting the wrong decision I had made by rejecting the promotion. My career had failed, and my professional life was in tatters. The stress and sadness were palpable, and I realized that my decision had had a devastating impact. The next vision took me to my home. I saw Emma, my partner, with an expression of pain and disappointment. We were in the midst of an intense argument, and the love and understanding we once shared had evaporated. The lack of communication and the accumulation of resentments had eroded our relationship, leaving it in a critical state. It was a crushing blow to see how my inaction had led to an imminent breakup. Then, the vision shifted to a darker future. I saw myself in a state of deteriorated health, struggling with illnesses and extreme fatigue. I had neglected my physical and emotional well-being, and the consequences were now evident. The lack of self-care had taken a considerable toll on my health, and the future looked bleak and depressing. But then, the mirror showed me a possible alternative, a path to redemption. I saw a different version of my life, one in which I had taken the mirror's advice seriously. My environment was more organized and successful, my relationship with Emma was filled with love and support, and my health was in optimal condition. This vision of my future was clear and promising, full of opportunities and happiness. The contrast between these two futures was overwhelming. The mirror not only showed me the consequences of ignoring its advice, but also offered a glimpse of what I could achieve if I made the right decisions. The revelation was a wake-up call and an opportunity to change the course of my life before it was too late. In that moment, I knew I could no longer ignore the mirror's advice. The vision of the future I had seen left me with a sense of urgency and determination. I had to make difficult decisions, confront my fears, and act decisively to avoid the disaster I had witnessed and to reach the promising future that was offered as a reward. After that night of revealing visions, my perspective on life changed dramatically. I began to take the mirror's advice seriously, not just as a curiosity or a twist of fate, but as genuine guidance for my future. Decisions that once terrified me now appeared in a new light. The mirror had done more than show me visions, it had offered me a chance to transform my life. I started applying the advice it had given me. I accepted the job promotion, tackled the issues in my relationship with Emma with renewed openness and honesty, and committed to taking better care of my health. It was a challenging process, but the difference in my life was immediate and noticeable. Looking back, I realized that the mirror gave me more than just warnings, it provided me with a second chance. Sometimes, the answers to our problems don't come from traditional sources, but from unexpected places. In my case, an ordinary mirror became a wise counselor, showing me that sometimes we must listen to the least expected signals to find the right path. So here's the lesson I learned: don't underestimate the power of the ordinary. Sometimes, the deepest truth and the most valuable guidance can come from the most unexpected sources. Have you ever received advice from an unexpected source? How did you handle it? I'd love to hear your stories and thoughts in the comments. If you enjoyed this story and felt inspired, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to not miss any more surprising tales. Thank you for joining me on this journey of discovery and reflection. Until next time, remember to keep your eyes open for the advice life offers you, even if it comes from as unexpected a place as a mirror.